Hello, Keith Stevens here with International Coatings, and this week International Coatings was the recipient of the 2025 Impressions Magazine Design of the Year. And I can't tell you how ecstatic we all are about that. We've all worked in-house to develop this. There's William back at the office and Yuka with the art. Mark is supervising the whole show, and we have Caesar in the separations. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for their involvement. It's been really a pleasure working with them. International Coatings is very honored to be awarded this Design of the Year, and it's taken a lot of people involvement to get to this point. We've been developing and working with a lenticular type of product going on many years here, and I, for one, have been doing it for close to 30 years. And there's a lot of variations of how to do that, whether it's varying heights with high density. This one happens to be done with a gel and what we call a Gelusion look, where it's just one level with inks printed on top of this one level, and then we melt it in the dryer. You have to know a little bit about what the ink's gonna do. And since we're an ink manufacturer, I'm pretty lucky to be involved in that. But you also have to have the proper mesh selection with things like thread diameter has to be thought of. The emulsion thickness, here we're using the 400 micron emulsion thicknesses on this lenticular look. Also, we're using a 65 line halftone, and we're going through 330 mesh. And we're doing a coating of 2 and 2 on each side. And that's typical for almost everything we do, and the tension of those screens, they're on retensionable mesh, and we really try to get them up there in a nice high tension range, and that's the way things become easier. This is a very difficult print, but when all those things are put together with the tensions and the emulsion thicknesses and all those things align, just like the artist, when we saw this art, it was like we knew exactly that was special. And what can we do with that? And it was a very, very big team effort from everybody's involvement to get to this thing. I'm very lucky to be working with Yuka in the art department. This is all done with AI artwork, and so that has brought on so much more options and opportunities. You know, you're only limited by your imagination, and this mummy print certainly is pushing that imagination. You'll notice that all my lenticular jobs are done on a dark shirt, and I want to emphasize that because we have to elevate the temperature in the dryer in the range of about 375, and some white shirts will yellow, or they'll scorch, or they'll go a little off on you. So I'm using a dark garments to hide that, because we are in the 375 range. It doesn't take longer than a minute to do it, but that's how we're able to achieve that Gelusion. Certain high densities won't do that, and non-PVC inks, our Axion won't do that. It won't remelt in the dryer like that. What you come out of the printing process is what stays in the dryer. But with the PVC, our inks for the PVC, they'll remelt in the dryer and do the technique that we want. What is that technique? Well, we're printing bars of ink, and we're printing multiple bars of ink with square tops on them. But the square top is key, because when we print the 65 line halftones on top of those bars with a flat top, the ink will stay there because it's a flat surface. And then what we do is we round off that flat top using the dryer. It's 375 for 1 minute. That gel ink, that high density through a 400 micron, will melt in the dryer and bring those colored inks down with them. The inks that were printed on that flat top are now melted and they come down, and now you're looking at the inks from the angle. Otherwise, it's just a flat and you'll just see ink underneath with no colorant. But because it melts and drops down in the dryer, that is the key behind this. There are other ways to do this, lenticular with different elevations where they reveal images and lettering and stuff like that, and they're fantastic also. But this version is not with varying elevations. It is one elevation of 400 microns with 65 line halftones, 330 meshes that are printed on top of those linear bars, and then those linear bars are melted in the dryer. Okay, and that's using a 110 mesh. 30 years ago, I was working for a competitor, and it just came to me. We were working with an ink that happened to gel and do these techniques, and it hadn't developed into this technique yet, but it was doing this technique. And I just woke up one morning at 5 in the morning, called my coworker just to get it off my chest because I was afraid to lose it. So I called my coworker that was on the East Coast, and shared the idea with them, and they said, well, you know, they were like, what are you drinking? But clearly I wasn't. I just wanted to get it off my chest so I can go back to sleep, and which I did. And over the next month or two, I was working with a local printer in LA, and who was a high-end printer that could, you know, achieve these things. They already were working with thick films and emulsions. They were already using retensionables and had a high tension quality mesh. So I first did a Lilo and Stitch there. It was a Lilo and Stitch, so that can date you what year that was. But it went from Lilo and Stitch. I had 2 images. I do not have them in my possession. I would die to have one of them back in my possession. I know where one of them is and I'll never get it. I don't know where the other one is. But that was when I was first infected with this technique. Since then, I've done a couple other designs playing around. But this Egyptian print that we just did, the stars aligned. The Yuka came up with this artwork, and I have William in the screen room, and we have Mark overseeing all of it, getting ready for the show, and there's so many things involved there. And again, I'm lucky to be working with this company. We have the facility, we have the equipment, we have the people that want to do it. They're okaying and allowing me to do these things. So I just want to say that it takes a big team effort. And you'll notice I've talked about it in the past. Without those meshes, or without those emulsions, without the right squeegees, all those things I talk about and preach, without those things coming together, it's not doable. It's not achievable to do this higher level of printing. Yeah, you can do white ink on a garment all day long, but to do a 65 line halftone at this resolution, you really have to get some of the other things in line. It's not undoable. You can do it. It's all that information is out there. You just have to believe and play and try and, you know, call in somebody to come and give you a hand, whether it's from the local salesman, from your distributor, or the ink manufacturer or the emulsion manufacturer. They're all there. They have the knowledge. Okay, it's not difficult. You just don't know yet. You don't know what you don't know. That information is out there. I'm still learning, and I've been doing it for 48 years. And things like AI and new ways of making film, or direct to screen, or laser developers, there's all kinds of new things coming out there. And so just don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to reach out for help if you're having difficulty. And just remember that we're all in this together. It's a community, and make sure you're having fun. And I want to just thank everybody. I want to thank Impressions Magazine for the 2025 Design of the Year Award on behalf of International Coatings and the whole team behind that. It really was a team effort, and I'm just very proud to be involved. And I'm Keith with International Coatings, and thank you for your time.